threatened to kill me. So sitting here and you're like, how do you wrangle that?
Right.
And at the time I'm like,
All right, we're live, guys.
Yep, you got it. We won't say anything.
All right.
All right.
Just give me 1 second.
Yep.
Be live, we'll be in trouble. Oh, somebody's doing.
Yeah, somebody.
Sophia.
Okay, let me just get started here. Let me find the meeting. Good,
On the chair here.
good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 8th Commission on Disabilities meeting. We could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. That would be helpful while we wait for a few more participants to join our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do a roll call of the members that are here in attendance.
Okay, so Ralph DeChico, you are.
Present.
Colleen Perno is also present. Jason Barone, yes, you are. And let's see, Mario Gramanis.
Yeah, present.
Hey, Robert Brown. Not yet. Ellie Vargas.
No,
Okay.
neither one of them are here.
Okay, Asma Alfuda, we know is not here, which is fine. And Sophia Mamucha. Sophia, I thought I saw you.
Yeah,
Hey.
Sophia's here. Thank you, Sophia.
Hi.
Hi, hope you've been well. So the first order of business we're going to wait for, because we don't have enough people to vote on approve the meeting minutes, so we'll wait a few minutes. Item 2 is we have a guest speaker here. It's Meg. Hopefully I'm going to pronounce your last name correctly. It's Bindara. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did.
Okay, she's the founder of Unpaved Trails for All. She's gonna, she has contacted me a few months back, and since we didn't have a July meeting, she's gonna talk to us about her who she works with, the foundation she works for, and about some bills that are in the legislature. So she has a presentation, a slideshow presentation, that I'm gonna allow her to share the screen and take it away and have her start discussing it.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Let me know if you can see this.
Yes.
Great, perfect. So like Ralph said, I'm from Unpaved Trails for All, and we're a volunteer, disability-led grassroots advocacy group. I'm the founder, and really what we try to do is educate about the need for accessible trails, the need for more accessible trails around the state, and just how important it is to have nature spaces for everybody. And I'm here because we have a bill that's pending with the state legislature. It's called an Act Expanding Access to Trails for People of All Abilities, which is S.446 and H.769. Both versions in the House and the Senate are identical. And it's been referred to the Joint Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. And if you've never been on an accessible trail, the unpaved variety is basically just a really beautiful nature space. The trail itself has a surface that can be used by all types of mobility devices, and they are wider often than inaccessible nature trails to allow for mobility devices, and hopefully wide enough to allow for 2 mobility devices to pass or to travel on the trail together. And the reason why this issue is so important is it kind of covers 3 different areas: public health, environmental justice, and equity. And if we look at this issue through public health, we know through so many studies that green space is healthy space. It improves physical and mental well-being, and it reduces stress. And that stress reduction is really important. People with disabling conditions generally score lower on quality of life and standard of living measurements than our peers without disabling conditions. And stress can play a lot in a big role in that. And people with limited mobility are, statistically speaking, far more likely to develop stress-related illnesses than our peers without limited mobility. And that's just because we have more stressors. When you have to worry about how you're going to get in and out of a space, if it's accessible, do they have non-visual navigation and signage for you? Those are things that people without mobility limitations just don't have to consider. And so we just have extra stress in our life. We know that nature is really good at relieving our stress, but what hasn't really been talked about a lot is the studies that show that the more natural a space feels, the more stress relief we get when we spend time there. So, parks and rail trails are great, but if you can spend time in an environment that feels less built and feels more natural, you will actually get more stress relief from spending time there. When we talk about this issue from the environmental justice lens, really, it's just that all residents and visitors to our state should have access to the health and well-being benefits of nature. And unfortunately, it's not the case. Access is hard to find and not as frequent as it should be. And then when we look at this issue from an equity standpoint, these trails are either on public land, or if they're not on public land, they're usually quite often developed with money that comes from public funds. So having access that represents us as the community and the population that we are in Massachusetts is really important, and it just isn't happening right now. So in Massachusetts, 33 to 47% of the population could benefit from all persons or accessible trails. That's 17% who are seniors, 11 to 25% who are under age 65 but living with disabling conditions, and 5% who are under age 5. So their parent or caregiver may need to use a stroller, which has a lot of the same access considerations as mobility aids and devices, or they're just young children and they don't have far walking ability or balance yet. So altogether, we represent that 33 to 47% of the population, and that's 2.3 to 3.2 million people. So that's a lot of people. But the reason why we need this bill is because the trail system in our state doesn't reflect that population. So we have about 4,000 miles of unpaved recreation trails in our state parks alone, but only about 7.5 miles are accessible right now. Information about accessible trails is often hard to find or just non-existent. And there are a lot of stereotypes about pavement being equal to accessibility, and rail trails can become more accessible in a lot of ways. Pavement doesn't always equal access. And then due to lack of education and stereotypes about what it means to have an accessible trail, many of the trails we have don't provide a quality outdoor experience. They are often very short and disconnected, and sometimes just, unfortunately, a little bit boring. And then funding for trails does not reflect our population, and it isn't making up for the historical inequities that have existed in outdoor recreation when it comes to access. If this bill were to pass, it would require the state entities responsible for creating trails, like the DCR, to maximize access to the outdoors. And how this bill would do that is to develop a trail access working group that would evaluate the current conditions in the state, take a look at our trails, specifically unpaved and paved separately, kind of take a state of the trails assessment, and review different requirements and laws and best practices and all sorts of things. It would also require them to hold hearings and hear from people across the state about what kind of access they need or want or have or don't have. And then there's a lot of things in the bill about what the working group would comprise. And there's a bunch of things. I'm not going to read them all on this slide, but I'm going to highlight the most important. The first is that a third of the working group has to have members or has to be members that have disabling conditions. And I think that's so important because we've never before had a voice at the decision-making or the assessment level for trails. And you just get better spaces in terms of accessibility when you include people who need that kind of access. And then the other thing that I think is really important is that the working group, in addition to having a third of its members have disabling conditions, it also needs to represent a diverse geographical regions of our state and reflect racial and ethnic diversity. The working group is going to come up with a report. And sometimes when people hear working group, they think, oh, it's just a bunch of study and there's no action. But the thing that I really like about this bill is that there's some action kind of baked into the way it's written. So within 3 months of passing the bill, the working group would need to be established. Within 12 months of the working group being established, they would have to file their report, which the DCR would be required by the bill to respond to. And the goal of the bill would be within 3 years' time to increase the amount of accessible trails we have and increase the dollars that are going to fund accessible trails specifically. We have some organizations that are already supporting the bill and municipalities that are already supporting it. So Unpaved Trails for All Out Adventures, which is an adaptive recreation nonprofit, and the Appalachian Mountain Club Massachusetts chapters all worked on getting, helping to put this bill together. And then we have land trusts and trail groups and all sorts of other groups supporting the bill. But we also have a lot of disability commissions and a couple of cities who have also passed resolutions at the municipal level to support this bill. We also have some additions since I sent this PDF to Ralph. The Boston Disability Commission Advisory Board has voted to support, in addition to the groups that are listed here. The City of Amherst has passed a resolution. The Town of Amherst Disability Commission has also supported, and East Hampton's Disability Commission has also supported, in addition to the groups that are listed here. And then what I'm hoping from your committee today is that I can answer any questions that you may have, and that you would also vote to support this bill and write a letter to the Joint Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, which is the state committee that's reviewing this bill or will be reviewing this bill. And then if anybody from your town or your committee would like to request your municipality to pass a resolution, we have a framework that can be built upon just basic resolution language that can be adjusted to your specific community. And then you can also help as an individual. We have an online petition, and we're always looking for volunteers just to help talk about their experiences in nature and help educate and spread the word about the bill. So I also have a list of legislative sponsors. If your representative and senator are not yet signed on to support the bill, that would also be really helpful to ask them to sign on to support this bill. And I don't think your and Revere, your senators or senator or representatives are supporting it yet. And then you can find out more about the bill either on the state's website by searching the bill number, or we have some information on unpavedtrailsforall.org. And you can also email me at unpavedtrailsforall@gmail.com. So I'm happy to take any questions or, answer anything I can.
Have any of the state, such as the Mass Commission for the Blind or any other commission for disabilities, even signed on this? Because it seems like that would be another big, huge help.
Yeah, so we have a lot of municipal commissions, but not any of the state organizations yet. That's kind of my next round of of
They don't want to hit
accuracy.
MRC. I think MRC needs to get involved in that. I think MCB needs to touch that. You're going to see, I can't see why DDS and DMH at this point. Maybe even reach out to the NFB, ACB, AFB, and see if they're willing to, just some thoughts on that, only because the more of that can get involved as well, because that's going to change the aspect, because we're, they're thinking about the physical part and getting through mobility aids, which is great. And I'm appreciative they're doing that. But there's also the visual side that people don't think about either. So when yes, that it needs to be auditorily available, because that's going to create or some sort of guide system in place. And a lot of places don't have that.
Absolutely. Non-visual navigation is important and definitely something that we're hoping to see more of on trails for sure.
It's the only other thing they may have. I mean, if they're looking at they need to be looking at the public restroom side of it as well, because that's going to be another challenge. As I'm sure Ralph can say as well, as you see, wheelchair pieces become a challenge in itself too, because when you try to access bathrooms and stuff, it's not that easy, so, it's nice to go on a trail, but if you have no place to go, it creates that's another stressor, as you were talking about. So every time you go to do something, you're thinking about ahead where, am I going to be able to access, am I going to be able to do what it is that I want to do, or am I not going to be able to do that? Or, it takes longer. So all the thoughts have to go into a head, and I have to have someone that goes with me because I need help. So that's another challenge. Someone has to have maybe a caregiver has to have someone with them. So there's thoughts in that.
Right. And these are all things I'm hoping that the working group, if the bill passes and the working group gets established, that they'll look at, because these are all, how close is it to public transportation? How many trails do we have that are connected to public transportation? All those things, bathrooms, what information can I find before I go? All these things need to be considered.
Right. Even access for the ride. If someone takes the ride or takes the lift, which you can do, there's a wheelchair lift option. I don't know if Uber has it. I haven't played with it. But it's just some thoughts that might want to come out of that, just because it's nice to pass bills, but we need to see some real full action outside of that at the same time. So, I'm just surprised I haven't seen any commissions yet, as far as the state level goes, because those disability commissions are, have a lot more pull, I think, that might push that a little bit. And then maybe on the federal level a little bit too, to bring some more money in, hopefully.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments from the commission?
I have it's not quite a question, not quite a comment, but Meg, how are these areas identified? Like, how does one find an area that would be a qualification for an unpaved trail? I mean, I'm from a suburb, and so I'm familiar with like those areas, but living in Revere, I'm just sitting here trying to think of what has not had cement slapped on it recently. In what areas, like where would one look, or how would one identify those areas?
Right. That's honestly part of the problem, is that it's really hard to find and identify those areas. So right now, there is some information about state parks on the DCR's website, but it's hard to find and it's incomplete. Other than that, unfortunately, it's basically going town to town. It's a project that we've been trying to work on with landscape architecture students from UMass. They had a hard time finding information. So lack of information is often the first barrier. And even before you get to the physical barriers that may or may not exist. So it's definitely an area that, again, I'm hoping the working group, if this bill gets passed, will seriously be looking at. And I think that the key to looking at these issues is that a third of that working group has to be people who are living with disabling conditions. And those are the challenges that you recognize when you live with, mobility considerations or other disabling conditions. So across the board, not just mobility disabilities, but all sorts of disabling conditions, the bigger that group is and the more diverse it is, the more these things will get talked about, and that report will include those things, I think, because that is right away one of the biggest barriers, just even to find the trail.
Right. I mean, even looking at, I know that there's a trail out in Natick. It's the rail trail that is newly completed, but it's a paved area. It is quite wide. It's very, very smooth. It's beautiful. But now you're talking about a community that, yes, it's building up and it's becoming overpopulated like everywhere else. And they put that in, earlier on. So that wasn't even, that had been in the works for many, many years. But just thinking along those terms, when you have, let's just use Revere as an example, because one of your whole areas that you're abutting is the seashore. So you can't do anything there virtually. And so now you start looking and trying to think and brainstorm about, where could this potentially lead? And I know that there's the bike trail between Malden and Everett in that area, that they're now facing some issues with that as well. But that's why I was sitting here and found your presentation extremely interesting, because again, having grown up in an area where there was a huge amount of green space, coming to an area that had some, but now is having less and less, thinking, how does one even come about finding this area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really looking at it. We need to look at the state-owned spaces and also the land trusts that are, frequently developing trails with public money. So when you look at municipal conservation areas, land trusts, and state-owned property, those are the areas. I know that on the federal level, there are a few reserves. So there's the Hellcat Trail in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Reserve that's attached to the Bay Circuit Trail, which does kind of a loose loop around generally the greater Boston area. Some of the sections of the Bay Circuit Trail are accessible. I think there's varying pavement and unpaved surfaces there. So it's hard to piece together. And this is why we need to look at this at the state level. I'm on the Massachusetts Recreational Trail Advisory Board, which is the board that funds mass trail projects and looks at the grants that they get from land trusts and municipalities. So even on the local level, there's usually a state component. And that's why I really think at the state level, we need to start unifying this information and looking at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Your presentation was excellent. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you all for inviting me and for your time today. And happy to take any other questions on or off the meeting.
I have just a couple of questions on the first part. What could we do right now to start the support? What would you like us to do to be an organization supporting this bill, to such as the Framingham Disability Commission?
Mm-hmm.
What formally can we do right now as a commission as the first step, so I could have somebody take up a motion for us to vote on right now to officially, and then once that's done, what would be the next step that you would need?
Great. So the first step would be voting to support the bill and write a letter to the joint committee that is going to be having a hearing on this bill. We don't know when the hearing will happen.
That's what I was going to ask you. They still haven't had the hearings, correct?
No, they haven't had the hearing. And how it works is that basically they schedule a hearing that they hear a bunch of bills that all sort of have the same theme.
I just did one.
Right.
So,
right. And you don't really have a lot of notice. I think it's a couple of weeks usually.
Not
yeah, sometimes. Yeah. So we don't know when that will happen, but they are coming back from recess. So it could happen at any time, basically between when they come back to the end of the year.
All right, so is it the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar year?
I believe it's the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
So the first step from your side, your commission would be, or committee would be, to vote to support and to write a letter. We do have sample letters that can help you
Okay.
from other commissions if that makes it easier, but you're welcome to write your own thing.
Okay.
And then if you as a commission feel like you want to take it further,
Right,
then
that's my next-
approaching your municipal government and asking them to pass a resolution is really huge. If on a municipal level, you know, you can say like Revere is supporting this, that's huge.
Okay, what I'm going to do at this point, Pauline, I just want to let you know that Robert Brown has been in attendance. I'm not sure if you saw it. He got on.
I have him.
Yeah, right. A couple, like about a minute or two after Meg started talking. So we can, I'm just going to backtrack for 1 second, Meg, to make it official. I'm just going to, a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the
Motion
June
to approve.
meeting. It's Jason and
Yep.
Marco seconded it.
Yes, we
Okay.
did.
Second thing is me and Pauline cannot make a motion. So does anyone want to make a motion to I'm trying to figure out the correct wording, to join in sponsoring this bill for the that Unpaved Trails has been working on? So we could make a motion to sponsor and become a part of sponsoring this and sending a letter to it's both in the Senate and the House, right? It's in joint committee.
Yeah, it's a joint committee.
Yeah, and to the makers of the makers of the bill in both the House and the Senate. If someone wants to make that motion and then second it, not
Motion
me.
support.
Motion to make that, and someone want to second that?
Yeah, I can second it.
Okay, so that's that. So we're gonna support that, and we'll write the letters to need be. And we want to take it one step further. And if somebody want to make a motion to send a resolution to our city council so that we could, as the city of Revere, can sign on to support this also.
Motion to send resolution.
And do I have a second on that?
Seconded.
Okay, and Robert Brown second that.
Thank
So Pauline, you just, as much as you can to write that up. And Meg, if you could send me the templates on both. And then Pauline, I'll take care of getting those worked on and getting them sent to, they have to go, including the bill makers, and then to our city council to adopt a resolution from the city of Revere to support this.
Mhm.
Does that sound like I covered everything, Meg? Did I forget anything?
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll put it on the disabilities letterhead going to the legislature and try and get that done as quick as I can. They do, I believe they do, when you go to the bills, they have the email link where it can be sent to, correct? Or do they want them live?
They have a link, I believe. I can also provide you the email address, and then if you could just send me a copy because we're putting together
put
a
them all together?
packet. Yeah,
Perfect. That's what I was going to ask, if you're going to do it as a packet after to them.
yeah.
That sounds, yeah, perfect. Yeah. So when you can, just send me what you have so that I can, follow along and base it on those, because I don't want to not include anything in them that would be beneficial for these bills.
Yeah, great. I can send them to you tomorrow. Thanks so
All right,
much.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I
Anyone have any
appreciate
other
it.
questions for Meg? And continue the great work, because this would be an added benefit. One other piece of information that we wanted to share with you, as I see if this does pass in the group that will be created, the head of the DCR is the former mayor of Revere, the commissioner of the DCR, and from what I'm told, he has a great what's the word I'm looking for? He really wants to open up everything for people with all abilities. So this would be great, and if I can get Revere to sign off on it too. So especially our council, this could have some weight to it too. So,
That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
Oh,
Right.
well, I appreciate your time, and it was a great presentation. That's why I wanted the presentation on here, because this, like I said, this goes not only here on our Zoom meeting, this does go on the Revere TV's YouTube channel. And it's been live broadcasted right now for any members on here. And Sophia, on the high school aspect, this may be very beneficial as a grassroots campaign. If you possibly want to get in touch with Meg and see if there are any high school students that you know that have a disability that want to help out on this. This could be something, because I know you really want to get involved with advocacy. So this may be something great for you. So I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts or questions on it.
That sounds like a really good idea. Thank you. Meg, I would definitely contact you after the meeting's over. Thank you.
That
All
would
right,
be great. Thank you.
Yeah, if you have her website on there with her that has her email, but if you need anything, Sophia, just reach out to me and I'll give you her information, because I think this may be great, especially for high school students and young adults, especially where you wanted to do some advocacy for it. Okay, well, I appreciate, Meg. Thank you for your time, and thank you for taking the time out and joining us. And look forward to in any way we can.
Yes, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
That
you
was
all
excellent.
so much.
Thank you so much. You have a good night. You're welcome to stay on, or you can spend the rest of your night and not have to stay here on the meeting.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. The next order of business is item number 3 is updates next steps from the June monthly meeting, since we usually don't have a July meeting. Just asking if Pauline has any updates for for the calendar for any future monthly guest speakers.
I am waiting confirmation back from the MBTA police to come join us for the month of September, so that we can talk about, seeing as we have 3 of their T stops right here and a number of buses, I thought it would be a good idea to invite them over, and we can talk about what efforts they're doing and what our concerns are. So I am awaiting response back from them. As soon as I have it, I will let you know.
Okay. Another suggestion what about Charlie the dog in Revere with the handlers?
I would love to have Charlie the dog. Charlie is in great demand, but I will reach out to get Charlie as well. And then I was going to recycle through, because I know that we're going to be coming up on October, November for fire safety, the changing of the clocks, the changing of the carbon monoxides and stuff. Even if we maybe piggyback the health department with upcoming flu vaccine and those concerns, as well as I thought maybe we could do like 2 of them, so we could get 2 people in on one, and then roll into the winter, and then hopefully maybe get DPW in about all of what's going to happen, because I just got a notification when to expect the first snowfall, and I didn't like what I saw, so I was that way. So yeah, as soon as I have confirmation on any of these folks and the dates, I have the dates of the meetings all set. So as soon as I have confirmations, I will get them back to you so that we can get them circulated out there.
Okay. All right, so that's good on that. So basically, the second update was any information regarding the therapy dog agencies. We still haven't heard back, right? They just
No, and I was thinking that once school starts back, I'm going to get in touch with Dr. Galucci and find out. I know that they've had, I don't know if they're calling it a therapy dog or what its actual title is at the high school level. I don't know if it goes to all the schools. So I was figuring that once school gets back into session, I can meet up with him and maybe gain some insight, and maybe have those folks, if it's an agency versus if it's an individual person, have them join us for a little bit of a discussion about, how things are going, what they're targeting, what they're looking at, and who's able to jump on this bandwagon, because I know anywhere Charlie is, you cannot get near that dog, because everybody loves Charlie. And he is extremely, extremely lovable. But I know that the schools are using, I want to say it was a smaller dog, maybe on the golden doodle side. I'm not quite sure about that. So as soon as school gets back into session, I'll give Dr. Galucci a couple days to get his head together, and then I'll jump in on him.
Okay. The last thing is that we had on here, which was an update. Next step was to revisit the HP violation fines to do a draft letter. I'm happy to say we no longer have to worry about that. I've gotten that taken care of with the help of the parking clerk and the CFO, Rich Fiske. We went in front of the city council a week ago yesterday, and we got approval from the Revere City Council to adopt section 22G of chapter 40. So any handicap violations are going to be set up in a fund for the Commission of Disabilities. So that has been established. So that's a win-win. I've been trying to work on that for years. It's been part of my one of my tasks that I wanted to get done. So we officially have that done. And it's been granted and approved from the Revere City Council. So that's one good thing. So I wanted to let everyone know on that.
That's amazing.
Excellent.
So that's all set. I didn't know if anybody had any questions, but that's one thing that we don't have to worry about anymore.
Excellent.
So I'll keep everybody updated on that moving forward. Item number 4 was Massachusetts Office on Disabilities, and MOD is the abbreviation for it, had a Zoom meeting July 18th from 1 to 3 o'clock, discussing emergency management that includes people with access and functional needs in the event of emergency within your community. Basically,
No problem, bro.
it basically focused on people with disabilities and seniors. It explained how emergency management works in Massachusetts. It also explained on it was basically in 2 parts. And also how to develop municipal emergency plans and individual emergency preparedness. That was for the first hour, which they call part 1 was the overview of municipal emergency management. Part 2 of the meeting, which went from 2 to 3 o'clock, was practical steps to improve your emergency plan. And what it was practical steps to make your city's town emergency plan more inclusive of people with disabilities and access and functional needs. And also how disability advocates and emergency management directors can best exchange feedback. I've been myself and Adrian McGuire, who's part of the emergency management team in Revere now. We have had more discussions on this. We're trying to take this a step further. Back in 2017, I was part of the Homeland Security's working group team for the city of Revere for the evacuation plan that was started in 2017 and 2018. So Adrian McGuire, I've given her some of that information to take a look at and see if we can take any out of that and try and create a municipal emergency plan in Revere. There's a lot that we would need to be gathered on. I've tried in the past on finding out where the disabled residents are in Revere, who they are, by sending out surveys back in 2018. It's an added benefit to know where our disabled residents are in case of an emergency disaster. So we know where they are and how we have to get them out of their situation if that needs to be. It's better to be proactive than reactive. So that's something that Adrian is working on, and I'm willing to assist in any way possible. So I just wanted to let everyone know on that meeting. And that was, like I said, that was in July. So even though we didn't meet in July, I had a few meetings that I was involved in that I just wanted to keep everybody up to date on. There was also item number 5, the Massachusetts Office on Disabilities, MOD, had a statewide COD ADA Zoom meeting on July 19th from 10 a.m. to 1:30. The discussions included AGA open meeting law updates, ADA regulations, city and town reasonable accommodations at public meetings, MOD's reasonable accommodations after the end of the COVID-19 public health emergency, disability placard provisions and penalties under the Registry of Motor Vehicles provision MGLC.90 section 2, along with how to report misuse and abuse. So I don't know if anyone has questions on that. They were very informative, little background information that they gave on that. Plus they also recorded these meetings and had sent me the recordings of the meetings in case anybody's interested and has a couple of hours to spend and watch them in your free time, which I know everybody has and loves watching the meetings, but they're pretty informative. I got some great information on it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on item number 4 and item number 5, but there'll be more to come on item number 4. So I'll open it up to any questions from anyone.
Just a quick question on the one on number 5, Ralph, on the disability placard provisions and penalties. Did anyone mention if they've had any amount of people that they're finding that with that security sleeve that goes over the face, are they finding people are misusing other people's handicap placards for their own benefit? Was there any mention of that at all? Because I'm very
Yeah, they didn't get into that because that would be the registry that would talk about it. They basically just talked about the provisions and penalties for misuse. Because it was the MOD, it was the Mass Office of Disability that talked about it. That would probably be something about the registry. Would probably be the one to discuss.
Because you see, my eyes are always open.
Right,
and
right.
Watch probably more than I should, but whatever. But it's very interesting when you know that there is that security sleeve and that the potential is there. I guess that's just what I was.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's a great potential for that, and that probably does happen with the security sleeves that are covering the photo. Jason might be able to elaborate more on that.
I'm not aware of that, actually. I had never heard of that. When did this come out? Because I usually get emails on everything, so I'm very surprised.
They've had the security sleeve for a long time that goes right over.
Never mentioned it to anybody. They never mentioned it to anybody.
They would give it to you when they mail you out a placard. They give you the security sleeve that goes with it.
We've never seen it. Mario and I both have a placard, and we've never seen that in our entire.
It's clear on one side and it's frosted on the opposite side. It's just a regular sleeve. They tend to break.
So it's not a permanency. It's just
right. It slides off and on. So if a parking patrol or an officer wants to see and question it, they can slide it down.
So how would they do that if it's in your vehicle? Because if you think about it, you can't, because you don't put it outside your vehicle. You hang it.
No, but they would ask you if they see you go entering or exiting the vehicle.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it. Have you, Mario?
No.
Yeah, I open our things too. And I know my wife helped me with the opening it.
I don't know why they ever even made that.
I don't know why they haven't changed it to something like a QR code or something where an officer would only have access to scan. I mean, technically the photos should be covered, but I understand the purpose behind having the photo because people abuse things. But the reality is nothing's 100%. So, I mean, the fine $500, I mean, I don't know what else you could do. Although technically, again, a QR code or some sort of law enforcement tool that might allow them to, because really the number on it is already a clue. I mean, they have access to most of that. So, I mean, it's not rocket science, but I mean, I'm not.
You have to send your photo in when you get the placard. So if they put that code, that ID number in, if they queue it up, their picture should come up automatic.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't. A lot of states didn't have a photo for a while, and then the problem is that people have used that anyway. So, I can't see, I understand the arguments. I don't know. There's got to be a way to protect someone's face, but at the same time, I mean, you're never going to completely stop abuse. The reality is, I mean, you got people that park in a handicap space regardless. You got people that, heck, don't register their vehicles. They don't get car insurance. They don't pay their tolls. They don't pay. I mean, people drive around with it. There was one lady they just caught the other day. She had a suspended license for 10 years.
Mhm.
She's driving anyway. So I just can't. I mean, you never. People are what they are. They just, somebody else got killed. People don't care. People
Yeah.
are going to do what they're going to do. They just talked about. Did you remember the lady that was on her wedding day? It was in a golf cart.
Yep.
Yeah, they killed her and they injured the husband. So, but that was a person under the influence. Again, someone's going to do what they're going to. I'm not saying go help them do it, but someone's going to do what they're going to do. And no matter what you do, you're never going to completely eliminate. I mean, I don't know. I look at all the things just like when they look at the texting law, and I don't see enough money coming out of that. So it's the same thing with this. I mean, you'd have to really, they're not going to put the time in to enforce. That's just the reality of it. I know that too. I mean, it's the transit police are the same way. They're going to say it costs more to enforce the rules. So, but I agree with you guys. I don't know. I would question that sleeve, and I'd question, well, what's its success rate, and is there another way we can protect the face? Because I know I've gotten calls on that question of protecting the face, but they don't tell us about the sleeves. So
Yeah, it's been probably at least 15 to 20 years. 15 to 20 years they had the sleeves.
Probably.
that's definitely on. Then that's definitely medical affairs bureau issue, because they're not educating people. I mean, reality is they don't tell us much of anything, and half the time what they say isn't even accurate. People can't even, sometimes their applications don't get found. So I tell people, if you're mailing something in, put a tracking number on it. I mean, they're going to get to whatever it is, but in case they don't get it, just because you're sending things to a PO box, then it goes to our general mail. So, unfortunately, it is what it is, and state government at its best. That's about all I'm going to say without saying the wrong thing. But that's one of the most messed up agencies there is. So right behind the T, pretty much. I hate to say it, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well, thank you.
you got it.
Next is item number 6 was the CPAC August and September updates. Asking Robert if there's anything updated.
Yeah, we actually we just met Dr. Galucci and a couple other guys. We are having our election on the 20th of this month, and then our first meeting is the 27th, both at 6 p.m., both in the high school's commons. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get more people on board on the actual board, and then come September we are going to meet and we're gonna have all of our schedules for the events as well as for all of our meetings moving forward for the rest of the year.
Okay. Let's see. Item number 8 was another Zoom meeting that I attended for the State House. It was a hearing for the Joint Committee on State Administration Regulatory Oversight on July 26th from 1 to 5 o'clock. It was on 2 bills, House Bill 3040 and Senate Bill 2024. And I actually testified at this hearing because it was in Boston in the Tobin Bridge. I actually testified remotely and also sent in written testimony on it. And what these 2 bills, one from the House and one from the Senate, basically referred to was to modernize. I'm going to read the exact language for you. It was to modernize the access to public meetings. In other words, to mandate hybrid meetings. Presently, right now, public meetings are hybrid. They're not mandated. It's basically a choice by municipalities to either have hybrid meetings or not. And right now, because it's not law, they have to have it voted on to extend it. Right now, it's extended to 2025. But it's like I said, it's not mandated, and it's up to cities and towns to basically at their discretion if they want to basically have them or not. And if anyone wants to see the written testimony, I do have it. I actually, when I testified, I let them know that I'm the acting chair of the Revere Commission on Disabilities and also the ADA coordinator, but I testified personally on my own behalf. I did not, since we didn't have a meeting in July, we didn't take up a motion for me to go to the meeting to testify on behalf of the city or on behalf of the Commission on Disabilities. So I just did it as personally on my own behalf. And the great thing about the day of that hearing, it was the 33rd anniversary of the signing of the ADA. So it was great that local and state government officials needed to be reminded that people with physical, intellectual, social, and emotional disabilities, along with their families, deserve to be full participants in democracy, such as having a voice with being part of a public meeting, especially those who live in the communities and districts and states in which they represent and were elected. That's basically a lot of my some of what my testimony went into. One rationale, one thing that I also explained is a lot of municipalities are people that are against mandating hybrid meetings. They say a barrier to it is financial aspects to it. I beg to differ that they should live their life as a person with a disability and see what a true barrier is. Money should not be a barrier or an object to not have hybrid meetings. So that's my feeling on it. But if anybody really wants to read my testimony, my written testimony, I would be happy to send me an email and I'd be willing to share it to you. I also sent it in through my personal email, not through the city's email. So if anybody does want that, I will email it to you through my personal email, but you can email to my city's email asking me for it, and then I will just email it to you from my personal email. So I didn't know if anyone had any questions on that or any feelings on that.
Well, I agree with you, Ralph. I'd like to see some of these politicians go live their life with a disability for a little bit. I mean, the reality is, unfortunately, that's how laws get changed. I mean, it wasn't long ago that people on an airplane that got thrown off an airplane weren't getting compensated. That's all because somebody as a politician got suffered and didn't like it. It wasn't done in a normal procedure. These folks are, I mean, how could someone even make that? I don't understand the comment of that. That just, that is just idiotic, ridiculous. They probably have never met somebody with a disability, to be honest with you, to make that statement. I don't think most folks have the knowledge, probably have never seen a single entire person in their life with a disability, or if they didn't get exposed enough to make that statement. I mean, I don't know. I hope someone maybe takes that person aside and maybe educates them a little bit. But I hate to be open for them, but it aggravates me to hear that, because it basically, people use that word and they don't understand what barrier really means, because it's, a threshold is a barrier. Sometimes people don't understand that when the surface changes and then the wheelchair can't get over that surface, or even someone.
Right. Let's start with that. Yeah. Some
Know.
of the people that were testifying against it said that the barriers were financial and the barriers were technology and the barriers were internet. And that's not a barrier, especially a lot of these cities and towns just were able to get ARPA funding through the federal government. They should have put some of that ARPA funding aside. Plus, the federal government is expanding internet access across the country. So that's not a barrier. That is not a barrier. It's an excuse.
Their excuse. Well, yeah. I mean, when I lived in a small town, they didn't want a drive-through, for an example, but they'll go buy a new fire truck because they want a country. You know what I mean? It's just, and I'm not saying you don't need a fire truck, but my point is that they waste money on every other stupid thing. So why can't we put some money on that? It just, the logic in that doesn't sit, and you're already paying for internet access as a city. So what's the difference, really? I mean, a Zoom meeting is not that expensive.
They're saying the internet, well, they're in the rural communities, they don't have the internet access is
well, because you don't want to let construction in. I mean, their argument, Ralph, is
Right.
ridiculous. They don't want to let people come in to put the technology in. You have to, some things have to come in order to support, just like cellular for a long time didn't work in a lot of places. Why? Because people wouldn't allow them to put the things in. But yeah. So if you can't do that, how are you going to put, you have to give a little bit. I'm not saying take everything away, but you have to do something in order to get to that next level, or nothing will ever change. And that's why I'm tired of the rural people and the people out in, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just trying to be realistic. It's hillbilly country, and I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but that's really what it is, because you know, your lack of knowledge is ridiculous. Not you per se, but just the people of that. And ignorance is not an excuse. I'm tired of hearing ignorance. I'm tired of it. It's you know, you have access to a book, you go to school. Where's your brain? I mean, I don't understand. I know people think when I say things that I mean, but I usually don't talk like that. But it's just, I get tired of it. I see it even in some of my family members. I'm like, do you live under a rock? I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't.
No, it is. It's a very energy consuming when you try to send some education and explanation to get a voice heard, and it's you just keep going around in a big circle. I do get that, and I've heard it a lot, and I've heard, you know, there's always going to be excuses, there's always going to be reasons. However, as you said, in order to get something, you're going to need to give something. There has to be a give and take, and that's with anything. That's whether we're talking about written testimonies, whether we're talking about House bills, or whether we're talking about who's going to do the laundry today. It's a give and take. There has to be a medium. It doesn't have to be a happy medium all the time, but there has to be some way and somewhere in some place where those needs get addressed. They're thought through with purpose, rather than with just, well, we don't have to deal with it now. So what you said is very true. There has to be a give and take. There has to be. So hopefully with, the testimony of Ralph and all the other individuals who sent letters and whatever else testimony was there, hopefully that we will be able to keep these meetings, not as an, we'll do it bit by bit by bit, but we'll just be able to just keep them, because there are people who, for whatever reason, whether it's a physical, an emotional, any kind of
family, child care, all different reasons.
All different reasons. There's a number of different reasons. A flat tire can be a reason. And it doesn't mean that I won't always be able to go out, or I won't always be able to, attend only
viable option.
It's there so that you don't miss a vital piece of what's going on.
It can take, it took me one day, it took me 4.5 hours by the time everything was done to go to the doctor and back. Literally, or what I'm talking about. It's like that took it when we went to to go to the Sandcastle Festival. It took us longer. By the time we were done, and I was wiped. I mean, I was sitting here and I'm going, and it's just people don't think about those little things that might challenge that piece of it.
Everything price tag, and every challenge comes with an outcome. So yes, you're right.
We're gonna Mario. Yeah, and we're supporting you guys. Mario has to step out because he's got to head home, but he has got a ride coming, but because he came to stay with us for a while, so to hang out over here. So everybody, see you next month.
All right, thank you. So I'll move on to number 9 was commission members, late items and information. I just have one thing that I wanted to discuss from one of the meetings that I had with the Mass Office of Disabilities. Jeff Dugan, who works for the MOD. I briefly discussed to him the ideas that we've had in the past about piloting municipal employees spending the day working as a person with a disability. He likes that idea. We're going to have further discussions and possibly seeing if the MOD would want to create a pilot program. And I suggested that I would love to have Revere working on this with him and being the pilot city to do it.
Right. Well, good. I mean, I'd like to
This
see
way it's
people.
done the correct way, and he's going to be looking into it, and we're going to have further discussions on it.
Excellent.
Right. We need that. We need to see people, experiencing. I think the problem is that, those that haven't had a family member or live that way don't have any clue as to how that is. So I'm glad to hear that. That's a real plus.
Yep. Excellent.
Anyone, other members have any late items?
Nope.
Right. I haven't received any resident concerns or issues. I'm still getting people calling the Revere Commission on Disabilities asking to have their handicap placards renewed. So once again, I'll just remind you, handicap placards are issued to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. They will automatically, if you're in good standing, will automatically be sending you your renewed handicap placard application. But they're not done to the cities and towns in Massachusetts. They're done through the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Item number 9 is the next steps. Basically, the next steps is to get the letters out for the unpaved trails to the legislature in support from the Commission on Disabilities, and also to get a letter drawn up to the City Council asking for a resolution for the City of Revere also to become part of it. So that is on my next steps to get done. And I believe the only other item for next steps right now was Pauline was just waiting to see some feedback from anyone for guest speakers for our monthly calendar.
Yep.
Okay. The item 12 is the reminder. I'll read it. The Commission on Disabilities office number is 781-286-8267. Residents can also call Revere 311 directly and speak to their staff Monday through Friday. They will be able to answer most questions, but if they are unable to, or if you would like a call back from our department, please ask to be transferred to the disability office's voicemail, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. As always, please let us know if you would like something discussed or brought up and added to our monthly meeting agenda. You can let us know if you would like to speak on any issue or concern. The Commission is here to help and assist all the disabled residents and families of Revere. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
I'll do it.
All right, and a second was made. Our next meeting via Zoom will be Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for a great meeting. Enjoy the rest of the summer and have a happy Labor Day, because we will be meeting right after that.
I know.
Have a nice night now.
You
Yeah.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.